according to Isaiah. And it'll take a long time to get through it, because Isaiah is a fairly big book, as I said. We got as far as Isaiah says that as a 1,000-year reign of Christ begins, Israel will be a superpower on the earth. In other words, Israel will be the head of the nations. All other governments will be subordinate to it. It is a one-world government headquartered in Israel, with King Jesus at his head. Okay? All the world will be subject to God's laws, and the Messiah will be the final authority of their administration. We read in Psalm 2 that Jesus will tolerate no dissent. Joel's call to war is given in Joel 3:9 to 11. Please, Tony. Joel 3:9 to 11.
Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat the plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble and come, all you nations, and gather together all around, because you're mighty ones to go down there, O Lord.
In his prophecy of the Great Tribulation, Isaiah issued a call to peace during the millennium, saying the Messiah will settle disputes between nations, making war unnecessary. We read this in Isaiah 2 verse 4. Please, Derek. Isaiah 2 verse 4.
There isn't war anymore.
This verse is carved over the entrance of the United Nations building in New York. In fact, when this Messiah comes, the United Nations will disappear. But God's promise will remain and finally come true, in accordance with Isaiah 2:4. The temple referred to in Isaiah 2 is the one so meticulously described in Ezekiel chapters 40 to 46. A lot of reading. We learn that the temple itself will be situated a few miles north of Jerusalem. Now, we will understand if we read Zechariah 14:4. Zechariah 14:4, please.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, towards the east and towards the west, and there shall be a very great valley, and half the mountain will remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south.
Pay attention to this verse, for it tells us that the current Temple Mount, will disappear in an earthquake that divides the Mount of Olives in half. The gorge created by the earthquake will extend from the Mediterranean Sea to the Dead Sea. Fresh water will emerge from under the temple to fill the gorge, bringing life to a region that has been an arid wasteland since the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is recounted in Ezekiel 47. But before these days can come, the world must first endure the worst time of tribulation ever witnessed on earth. Matthew 24:21, please, Pat. Matthew 24:21.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be.
Isaiah's first description begins in chapter 2, verse 6, and extends through to the end of chapter 3. So let us read 2:6. Isaiah 2:6, please, Nancy. Isaiah 2:6.
For thou hast abandoned thy people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with influences from the east, and they are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they strike bargains with the children of foreigners.
Having given us a brief overview of Israel's kingdom age, Isaiah will now go through it again, providing more detail concerning the time just preceding the second coming. Isaiah 2:7 and 8, please, Mark. Isaiah 2:7 and 8.
Their land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. Their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made.
If you read that carefully, here's another suggestion that Israel will be, in the end times, accumulate great wealth. In fact, Ezekiel also made reference to Israel's great wealth in the time leading up to the battle in Ezekiel's chapter 38 and 39. This would serve to explain God's motive in forming a coalition of the nations mentioned to attack Israel. God had Ezekiel reveal his thoughts in Ezekiel 38, 12 to 13. Please, Terry. Ezekiel 38, 12 to 13.
Take are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land, Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil?
A group of nations will confirm this. In fact, we read in verse 13 that a group of nations standing on the sidelines asking, are you going to do this? In fact, today such a plunder exists. Therefore, there is ample motive for Magog to lead the attack. However, all the talk about destroying Israel based on religious issues is something that doesn't interest Magog. Current world events are beginning to increasingly resemble the 2,500-year-old Bible prophecy made by Ezekiel in chapters 38 to 39. Ezekiel saw the rise of Russia, maybe Turkey, depending on your interpretation, in coalition with Iran and other Middle Eastern countries. It mentions Sudan, Ethiopia, and Libya. The coalition is foretold to attack Israel from the north in a bid to destroy Israel during the earth's last days, commonly known as the War of Gog and Magog. Throughout history, it was thought that the prophecy has been put on hold until perhaps today, when it seems frighteningly more feasible. In Joel C. Rosenberg's book, The Ezekiel Option, the author points out to Ezekiel's prophecies in chapters 36 and 37, which have largely come true. Rosenberg asks the obvious question. If prophecies such as the rebirth of Israel, the return of the Jews to the Holy Land after centuries in exile, the reblossoming of the desert land to produce abundant fruit, food, and foliage, the creation of an exceeding great army, all materialized in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And he asked the question, then why shouldn't the next prophecies come true in our lifetime? Let's try and place the biblical names locations in today's reality and see the parallel unfolding of events. Gog is commonly believed to represent a person's name rather than a place. A tyrannical leader who may hatch an evil plan. In today's reality, this honour could be most suited to the president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, or perhaps Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon. Magog, according to some scholars, refers to Russia and republics of the former Soviet Union, or perhaps Turkey. Others will argue that the exact location has not been fully ascertained, and the word Magog may simply be a generalization for an enemy of Israel, leaving the location open. However, since Israel has discovered massive oil and gas reserves, a motive for an attack today exists. It is true that Russia has a strategic interest in the world's oil. The large discovery in Israel could serve as a tempting payoff for Russia. She may consider it sufficient to justify leading the Muslim coalition in its religious quest to destroy Israel. Not a few modern prophets say it's only a matter of time before this happens. In fact, that we see Israel potentially awash in petrodollars with a promise of billions more to come is more than sufficient to disturb the balance of power in the region. Now, Tony, if you will read Isaiah 2, 9, 10, and 11, please. Isaiah 2, 9, 10, and 11.
People bow down, and each man humbles himself. Therefore, do not forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust from the terror of the Lord and the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled. The haughtiness of men shall be bowed down. And the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day.
Notice that the Lord is not talking about Israel just alone here, but all of mankind. According to Zechariah, by the time he's finished there, will be no doubt as to who is exalted and who is not. Zechariah 14:9, please. Derek. Zechariah 14:9.
King over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one.
Amen. Later, Paul would write to the Philippians, Philippians 2:9-11, please, Sheila.
Therefore God also hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee shall bow, of things in heaven, and things in earth, and things under the earth, and that every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father.
Belief in the heart that he is Lord is a good thing to do. But regretfully, it won't solve the unbelieving world's problems. After Jesus returns, it will be too late for unbelievers to accept him as their Saviour and escape the judgment. Regretfully, they'll be led into hell, agreeing that he is Lord, and admitting that they stupidly